Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. My name is Tom, and today I was going to do a big project on this 911. I was going to do the front suspension bushings, the rubber bearings, because they need to be replaced. But it's 4th of July week. I'm already a little bit behind, so I'm going to do something much simpler. I'm just going to swap the radio. The radio going in is not the original radio, but it is a Blaupunkt, which is what these cars came with. This car would have come with the Reno, and this one is called the Las Vegas, named after US cities, which is kind of funny. It does have a CD player, which I'm sure that's why the original radio is gone. This would have come with a cassette player, and of course, CDs are better. This was given to me by Ken. This came out of his car, and he upgraded to, I think, one of the more modern Blaupunkts that have like Apple Play and CarPlay and all that stuff. Should be easy, but with all projects, you never know till you get in there. The radio that my car came with is this Pioneer, and it doesn't fit the look of the car. It also is having some problems with the volume knob. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's just a little, you gotta do a lot of turns. I don't know, it's not a very good radio. It does have a CD player, it's like behind here. So let's eject the disc before we take it apart. So I'm pretty sure this bezel just unsnaps. And then now that that's off, I think we need to poke some thin tools down in the sides to release the radio. So I'm just cutting some strips out of this scrap metal. Custom Pioneer removal tools. Made it pretty tight actually, but hopefully it's released the strips. I need to get access to behind and just pull it out. This radio is going to go in the trash, so if I break it, it's not that big of a deal. So just underneath here is a cruise control module, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that off, give better access to the radio, and hopefully we can just push it from the back. So I tried in these 4 corners, but now I'm going to try to put something in that little slot right there. So I'm going to have to trim these down to something about half the size to go right there in the middle. I do have the case for the detachable face, but there is no tool here in the glove box. I thought I should just take a quick look and see if there's a tool here, but I don't see it. So let's carry on with this idea. Yeah, that goes in pretty deep. Oh, but that does release it. So I think that's half of it. I guess that's why stolen car stereos were kind of a thing back in the day, because it doesn't take much to pull these out once you have the right tools. And I just made my own tools, so. So this is the antenna, easy to disconnect. This is a bunch of tape, which always scares me. When you pull apart car stereo stuff, you don't want to see a bunch of this tape. So this has a date on it. This is July 2002. So that's about when these cars were not worth much money and you just got tired of cassettes, you just threw something in there. And now for the big reveal. Oh, not these pink connectors. I hate these pink connectors. So the factory connectors are long gone and they're replaced with this pink junk. I just don't like these. There's no corrosion protection and they don't retain much strength. So, you know, most of this you can just pull apart. These look like they were crimped pretty well. I can't just slide them off with just one hand, but we'll end up doing some proper crimps and heat shrink on all this. I don't think the same connector for the new Blaupunkt. So we just bend all these little teeth out so this bracket can come loose. There's probably a few more here on the top. So that's it for the old Pioneer stuff. All we're left with now is just the factory antenna thing. And then this is going to be all the speaker wires and power and switch power and all that stuff. So we'll have to figure out the correct wiring diagram. Because this is not a new radio, I don't have a diagram. All right, I got myself in a little bit of a pickle with this radio swap because the connector on the Pioneer does not interface with the back of the Blaupunkt. It's a different connector, and one of the connectors was there, but the other two for power and speakers were not there. So I thought I would just, one, hope that this would fit, and which it doesn't, and then two, I just went to my local auto sound place, Huntington Beach here, and I thought for sure they would have the connector, but they didn't. So this was a holiday weekend and it took a little while, but luckily Amazon came through. So that's why this video is a day late. I had to wait for this wire harness. It's basically, these are the two connectors I need. This is the connector that I don't need, but I'm just going to cut it and have to re-splice it back into the factory harness. I'd like to make it all factory where the factory connector was here, but in my opinion, it's probably not worth trying to make an adapter and source that connector. So as I cut these, I am going to verify which is continuous power, switched power, this is ground. I'm just going to verify that before I damage the new radio. This was like a $8 part, so I'm not afraid to cut that one. Okay, brown is certainly ground, as we would expect. Red and green both have power, but when I turn the key off, only the red is battery plus. The green is the switched power. So we've got that figured out. This, I think, is for the power antenna. There's no power on it whether the key is on or off. So that is most likely to drive a power antenna, which this car doesn't have. This has an antenna here in the window. And then this diagram here on my phone shows the correct colors for things like constant 12 volts is actually yellow, and the ground on this is black, and ignition 12 volts is red. So the colors don't line up with the German colors, but that's okay. As long as we know what's what and it has these right pin positions, we should be fine. So I'm going to also stagger the connections, because what you don't want to happen is power and ground should be offset from each other. So if it ever wears through or the whatever connector fails, you don't want those to be in the same proximity. If it's offset and it's heat shrunk, they'll never short out. So what I've done so far is I've used a big piece of heat shrink. It's kind of pulled up onto the original harness right now. And then all of these have the open barrel crimps. They look like that. That's what the open barrel crimp looks like, and then it's gonna get heat shrunk on there. Before I heat shrink everything, I'm going to go ahead and power the radio on and make sure it's connected right. The radio is on, it just shows the clock. We hit power and now it's in FM mode, but I don't have any speakers connected. It's basically just looking for the antenna, which also isn't connected. Okay, now I got the radio powered on, and I have some jumper wires out of the speaker port into the first pair, which I believe are, red and brown red. So that is a pair. And sure enough, it's playing out of the right rear speaker. So if I turn the volume up, I can hear it out of the back. So I'm just doing like a trial and error list here. So red and brown red is the right rear. So as I cycle through this, I'll figure out, there's only 4 speakers. I'll figure out what goes to what wires. Here's the code of how the wiring's done for this car. The brown with the stripe on it is the negative side of the speaker, and then these solid colors are the positive side of the speaker. Yeah, all the speaker wires have been connected, and I verified that each of the speakers are working correctly. So I'm ready to put the big heat shrink over the little heat shrink. These are all shrunk down, and now I'm just gonna cover it with this bigger guy, and then that'll take place of all that old tape that used to be there. So this is the last shot of the radio before it goes in. So the wiring has been fixed to some degree. It's not the factory connector, but it's as good as I can do. These are correct connectors on the back of the unit. And then these pieces are for either a CD changer or for an external amplifier, which we're not going to use those. So we're just going to leave those taped up. There's the antenna, which is connected. We don't run a power antenna, which I think is what this white wire's for. I'll double check that, but I don't think I need this one. So this bracket works in much the same way, where you just bend those tabs over, and that's going to hold the radio in. So that's it. It's installed, and I like the way it fits. It's all the way flush with the dashboard, and it looks like a much better fit with the car. I like it. The radio works, so the antenna's working. And the CD player works, which is great. So we can hit source. Now it'll go to CD. And then it has auxiliary in, and that's the one thing that I have not figured out what to do. So there is an auxiliary cable, and right now it's just kind of dangling. I just kind of tuck it in right there. But what do you guys recommend for putting the aux cable? This will allow you to attach a phone. I don't want to drill any holes, but I could maybe tuck it in underneath, or make a bracket work underneath the dashboard, or maybe off to the side of this or something. Let me know what you guys have done. There's probably like 1.5 feet of leeway. Maybe I can put it inside the glove box, like that hole's used for the latch, but if anything, maybe drill a hole in the glove box or have it come through here or through the little area or something. What do you guys recommend for stock looking speakers? Because these are not very nice. They don't really, they fit the stereo that was in it before, but I wanted to just do something that's just plain and black. As opposed to painting the trim, I'd rather just replace the whole thing. The sound quality is probably about the same. It's not overwhelmingly better. I like the controls a little bit better, and I like the look a little bit better. And I think it's just a higher quality unit than what was in there before. So thanks again to Ken for giving me the radio. Sorry the video was late, but we'll see you guys again next week. Hope you had a happy 4th. Cheers.